the latest tit-for-tat move in India's increasingly bitter face-off with Pakistan. Days after Islamabad removed security barricades outside the Indian High Commission, New Delhi has now brought out the bulldozers outside the Pakistan High Commission. Structures and barricades along the lane were demolished after authorities said that they stood beyond the mission's approved boundary. And the message is clear: Islamabad acts and Delhi responds. Rubble where barricades once stood, metal railings twisted, roofing sheets, bricks and concrete scattered across the lane. This was the scene outside the Pakistan High Commission in New Delhi. Authorities moved in to demolish structures and barricades that they said had been erected beyond the approved boundary of the mission. Among the structures removed were queue management installations near the visa section. The main entrance of the High Commission remained intact, but outside it, the bulldozer had done its job. And the timing is everything. Just 3 days earlier, Pakistan had removed security barricades and parking poles outside the Indian High Commission in Islamabad, and now India has responded. A diplomatic tit-for-tat with barricades on one side and bulldozers on the other side. The latest face-off comes as India-Pakistan relations remain severely strained. The relationship deteriorated even more after the April 2025 Pahalgam terror attack, which killed 26 people in India. India responded with Operation Sindoor, targeting terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. The military confrontation lasted around 87 hours before a ceasefire was reached on May 10. Since then, the relationship has remained locked in a cycle of retaliation. India suspended the Indus Water Treaty and took a series of diplomatic measures against Pakistan. New Delhi expelled Pakistan military advisors, shut the Atari integrated check post and tightened visa rules. The authorized strength of Pakistan's High Commission in Delhi was also cut from 55 to 30 personnel. Meanwhile, Pakistan responded by closing its airspace to Indian Airlines and shutting its side of the land border crossing. And now, in latest flashpoint, another symbolic confrontation between the two countries. No missiles, no troops, but a bulldozer outside a diplomatic mission. The latest action underlines just how deeply trust has collapsed between the two neighbors. From barricades in Islamabad to bulldozer in Delhi, the India-Pakistan tit-for-tat continues. And for more on this, I'm being joined by Foreign Affairs expert Aditya Kothari. Mr. Kothari, thank you so much for taking out the time and joining me on the broadcast. A latest flashpoint yet again between India and Pakistan, and this time around, there's a new front in the diplomatic war. It's a tit-for-tat thing that has happened. First, Pakistan removed the barricades, and now India has responded by removing the encroachments outside the Pakistan High Commission. How do you see these developments?
So, Nancy, when it comes to diplomatic relations, obviously we weren't expecting the relations between India and Pakistan to thaw. But this is clearly a new low in terms of the relationships between India and Pakistan. Two nuclear-powered, nuclear-armed states who have been at loggerheads since time immemorial. But what really triggered this particular act from Pakistani side is the real question that we should be asking. And for that, we need to go back to August 12. August 12 is when India basically had this internal crackdown. And as a consequence, you ended up arresting over 250 odd terrorist and sleeper cells connected to the Shehzad Bhatti gang. And Shehzad Bhatti is basically backed by the Pakistani ISI. But the formal announcement of that arrest was only made by the government of India and the Ministry of External Affairs on the 17th of August. And which is when the Foreign Ministry of Pakistan comes out to basically deny all of the allegations put across by India, saying that, this is basically a figment of imagination of the government of India, and the Pakistani state has no play in the asymmetrical warfare and the hybrid warfare. Within India, it's a domestic problem, and that's what they basically set out. And after that is when they actually started to dismantle all of the parking poles, and as a consequence, remove the security provided to the Indian High Commission in Islamabad. So it's merely a optics, because obviously Pakistani state cannot be seen as flouting the Article 22, Part 2 of the Vienna Convention, which clearly states that any foreign nation's embassy must be provided apt amount of security by the host nation. And similarly, from an Indian perspective as well, it is an optics. It's a reciprocity, yes, but it's an optics to basically say that, now whatever you will do, we will basically give it back to you in equal and in proportionality. And that has been the change of language with this particular government, because they have, not believed in any sort of political correctness with the government of Pakistan. Now they've basically said that any action taken by Pakistan must be met with equal and reciprocal amount of proportionality. Nancy.
I think that after Pahalgam attack, after Operation Sindoor and the subsequent diplomatic measures that followed after the confrontation, how much room is actually left for normal diplomatic engagement between the two countries? Not that any of the country, especially India, is looking to normalize any relations with Pakistan, but do you think that after so much has happened and now we have reached a point where a tit for tat, actions are happening on both the sides, do you think that there is any room open for a normal diplomatic engagement with Pakistan in the near future?
Well, the trust deficit between the two nations is very, very high.
Right.
But having said that, the only way we can get back to some sort of normalcy, some sort of engagement, people to people connect, even trade, is for Pakistan to start demonstrating credible action. And that credible action begins with starting to dismantle the hybrid warfare terror factory which the Pakistani ISI and the Pakistani military establishment have been providing patronage to. And that is part of the Pakistani deep state and their military doctrine. The military doctrine was basically, it was basically conceived in the 1970s post the defeat in the 1971 war. It's called Operation Topak, which the Pakistani military basically engineered because they know that in a conventional warfare against India, they were never going to be able to win. And as a consequence, they resorted to asymmetrical warfare, a very cheap military tactic to basically go against another sovereign nation. And they had the K2 plan, which is Kashmir and Khalistan. They continue to prop that up against India within domestic peripherals of India, but also internationally in the Western nations. So again, for any normalcy to resume between India and Pakistan, the credible action needs to come here from the Pakistani side and not from the India side. And that India has basically made very clear.
Well, absolutely. There is also, let me bring in another diplomatic flashpoint between the two countries. The US ambassador to India, Sergio Gor, is during his first visit to Jammu and Kashmir, he went on and he called Jammu and Kashmir an important part of India. Let's first listen into what Sergio Gor had to say, and then I will come back to you, Mr. Kothari.
Everybody here knows I'm the U.S. ambassador to India, and this is an important part of India, and so I'm here visiting for the first time. It is an incredibly beautiful place, and so I'm thrilled to be here, thrilled to see this place. We just had a very good meeting, and we have some follow-ups that we hope to take back to Washington, back to Delhi. But a very warm, a very cordial, and we look forward to building this relationship forward. As I said earlier, this is a beautiful area. I think a lot of Americans would enjoy coming here and seeing the beauty and the opportunities that exist here. Thank you, everybody.
Mr. Kothari, following the statements made by Sergio Gor, Pakistan has summoned the top US diplomat in Islamabad and has lodged a strong protest over his remarks also. How significant do you think the remarks are and the choice of words are, particularly given the long-standing US position on Kashmir?
I think this one
and
is very
the growing
interesting.
bonhomie between Asim Munir and Donald Trump?
See, with regards to the bonhomie between Asif Munir and Donald Trump, I think the world knows it. It's purely transactional.
Right.
It's on the basis of what Pakistan offers the America and the American hegemony in the Middle East is as a mercenary up for hire. And that is what Donald Trump is basically using the Pakistani state and the military establishment for. Once its usefulness has deteriorated or diminished, they will be discarded just like they were discarded way back in the 2000s when we had America's war against terror in Afghanistan. And once they were done with that, Pakistan was thrown into the abyss. So Pakistan keeps coming up with its geostrategic relations and its geostrategic location with America, and it keeps proving to be that useful mercenary force, which is up for hire temporarily and then gets discarded. With regards to what Sergio Gor is basically saying, is very interesting, predominantly because he's just not the U.S. ambassador to India. He's also the special envoy to the entire South Asia. So, which is why it was the Charge Day Affairs which was actually called up by the Pakistani Foreign Ministry, and they basically lodged a protest. And that is obviously going to be reaching Sergio Gor as a consequence. But Sergio Gor has basically taken a leaf out of a conventional US playbook and has decided to play against the conventional stance of the United States position on Jammu and Kashmir, and as a consequence have said that this is an important part of India. And they may even be thinking about revamping their travel advisory for American tourists to come and visit Jammu and Kashmir, which I think is a massive, massive problem for Pakistan, because we've got to bear in mind that Pakistan, at this point of time, in Pakistan occupied Jammu Kashmir, is going through a massive turmoil. Where the Jammu and Kashmir Joint Action Awami Committee is basically loggerheads with the Pakistani establishment.
Right.
Official figures say that over 30 people have been killed by the Pakistani military establishment. Unofficial figures go up to somewhere around 150 to 200 people.
Right.
Now, as a consequence, Pakistan is basically stuck between a rock and a hard place when it comes down to its Kashmir policy.
Absolutely. Since you have mentioned POK, I also want you to shed some light on what's Pakistan is under immense pressure from outside and from inside their own country. POK is erupting because of the protests, and people are asking for basic human rights there. They are on the streets for bread and butter at this moment. You have Balochistan declaring in their own Independence Day. And then you have the whole controversy and the whole row going on between the Pakistani government and the Supreme Court over Imran Khan's medical conditions as well. So a lot of things are happening right now. Pakistan looks like it's in deep waters. Do you think that Pakistan will be able, and it's a big test for the Asim Munir and the Shehbaz Sharif establishment? And then you have your US going out and making statements, as Sergio Gor has made a statement and has clearly said and has changed the original stance of US on Jammu and Kashmir.
That's it. I mean, this is just not it. Pakistan actually faces a lot of problems in its western border as well, across the Durand line with Afghanistan.
Absolutely, the border
Balochistan is a
clashes with
flashpoint.
Afghanistan, right?
Balochistan is, of course, a flashpoint and internal trouble which has been brewing within Pakistan for the last decade or so, probably more than a decade, with regards to the insurgency happening. But what's happening in POJK is, for the first time, quite catastrophic in the grand scheme of things that we're seeing. Western governments coming and talking about it. Al Jazeera, which is seen as a pro-Pakistani, a pro-Islamist sort of a news media outlet, has been disbanded by Pakistan for reporting on the excesses of the Pakistani establishment against the people of Pakistan-occupied Jammu Kashmir. So this is, a first in many of these things. Also, the people of Pakistan-occupied Jammu Kashmir are, facing scarcity in terms of just not food, but they're not getting basic necessities with regards to electricity. Electricity, which is basically produced by the Pakistani occupied Jammu Kashmir state, exported to Punjab, and they get absolutely nothing in return. So what they're basically demanding is a little bit of the electricity that they are basically producing and exporting to Punjab, which the Pakistani establishment and the Punjabi establishment doesn't want to give, because their entire politics is completely Punjab focused. And that is the basic challenge with the Pakistani establishment is now coming to realize, because there is also simmering dissatisfaction within the within the Sindh province as well. So it's Sindh, Balochistan, the northern areas, the northwest frontier areas, and Pakistan occupied Jammu Kashmir, which is now coming down and clamping down a lot of pressure on the Punjabi Pakistani establishment. So it remains a test. But a lot of hawks have been talking about the dismantling of the state of Pakistan as a consequence of this. I don't see that happening, because Pakistan, for it, what we may think, Pakistan still holds a lot of relevance for the Western governments, including the Five Eyes, the United Kingdoms, the Canadas, and the United States. So they will continue to prop up and ensure that a little bit of lifeline is provided to Pakistan because it is convenient for them. It is a mercenary, it's a very cheap mercenary for hire for the Western governments, which is why there is also this blind spot in the Western governments with regards to the excesses that Pakistani deep state and the Pakistani establishment conduct on its own people in Balochistan, in Pakistan occupied Jammu Kashmir, and Sindh, and of course, Northwest Frontier Province.
So much, Mr. Kothari. Always a pleasure to have you on the show, and thank you so much for taking all the time and joining me on the broadcast.
Thank you, Nancy.